This week in Motor Week, Rutherford rants over motor fumes. Goffey drives the all-new Suzuki Vitara. And BMW's design chief, Bangle, explains his philosophy exclusively to Motor Week. But first, a girl with a mission.
Okay, so I'm not the next James Bond, but I'm still faced with a very important mission. If you've got 35 grand to spend on a car, it can be a pretty tough decision, and you only get one chance to get it right. But beware, because what starts out as a 35 grand car can soon end up costing you dear. If you fancy driving a Mercedes and you want some flash gadgets, like a stereo or air conditioning, it's all going onto the price. Before you know it, your budget's spiralling, you're cornered by the smooth-talking salesman and the bank managers homing in. Yes, it's a rare thing to find a luxury car with all those little extras that you'd expect included in the price. And that's always been the big attraction of the Lexus.
This is the latest Lexus, the new GS300. There are two models in the range, both featuring 3-litre engines. The only difference is the trim. This is the slightly more luxurious SE model, and it'll cost you £34,000 on the road. But in this case, you part with your cash, and you get a handsome list of equipment along with the car. 16-inch alloy wheels, a heated and electrically adjustable outside mirror, remote entry system, cruise control, electric steering column, dual air conditioning, electric passenger and driver's seat, front and side airbags, leather upholstery, headlamp cleaners and an electric sunroof.
And if the car's in a rather good mood, it'll make you a cup of tea and do the ironing for you as well. So it's packed with equipment, but what's it like to drive? Under the bonnet you get a 3-litre straight 6 that feels very torquey thanks to the variable valve timing. And it's as quiet as anything, you can hardly hear it. The engine feels smooth and powerful every time you accelerate whatever gear you're in, and switch the 5-speed automatic gearbox into sports mode and you'll get up to 60 in a very respectable 8.5 seconds. The top speed is 143 miles per hour. Just perfect for those quick getaways.
Now this is another one of those Japanese cars that has been tweaked to appeal to the European driver. The Lexus engineers spent months testing the car out on British roads. The changes they made to the suspension as a result give positive handling and good grip and control at corners. It actually feels quite sporty behind the wheel. One feature on the GS300 is the vehicle stability control. Now this applies brakes to individual wheels if it feels that you're losing grip. It's a little bit of extra insurance and added peace of mind. So there are no complaints behind the wheel or with what you actually get for your money. But will you look stylish in the Lexus? Will heads turn? Will you get noticed? What does it say about you? Remember that this is a Japanese car and we don't normally associate them with style. The GS300 is no exception to this. It may well think that it's a cousin to the E-Class at the front end, but it's unlikely to go down as a fantastic looker. It's not exactly stylish, more distinctive. It looks a bit like a cross between a coupe and a saloon, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you do get plenty of space with a few graceful lines thrown in for good measure. The styling on the Lexus is certainly easy on the eye. It's just the interior that's dreadful.
Open the door and you know you're in a Toyota. Even though the leather seats are luxuriously comfortable and they move in just about every single direction. And you travel in air-conditioned luxury, marvelling at the backlit instrument panel. Even though the steering wheel is electrically operated and leaps out of your way every time you take the key out, all of that is ruined for me by an incredibly black interior and rather cheap-looking switchgear.
Yes, they may throw plenty of extras at the GS300, wonderful gadgets to make your life as a driver easier, to take some of the stress away, to give you a real European driving experience. And they do give you lots and lots of equipment, far more than you'd get from any other manufacturer for the same money.
But sometimes less is actually more. Lexus have filled the GS300 with loads of equipment, but they've forgotten to give it a personality of its own. This isn't the kind of car that you could become attached to, because at the moment, it's the spy who came in from the cold, when what you really want is a spy who loved me. Mission aborted.
This says it all. Here we are, driving around Regent's Park, an area where the police are always out with their radar guns stopping motorists from exceeding the speed limit by 2 miles per hour. And you really can't take any liberties here at all. But when you're driving a motorbike like this guy here, would you just look at that, please? Can we get this on camera? Would you look at the filth coming out of the back of that? If we can, we're going to try and stop him at the traffic lights and have a word with him. Now, how is it that they're so worried about policing people who are exceeding the speed limit by a little bit, but they let guys get away with this? Mr. G551 OBA, you're a disgrace. And I think he knows we will try and have a word with him, which is why he's just carrying on like that. I mean, how can anybody get away with it? How can we, in a city like this, allow the police and allow this guy to just carry on as if nothing's happening when he's causing more pollution than hundreds of cars put together? Let's see if we can have a word with him. Mate! I think that said it all.
I don't expect you to believe me when I say it's a hard life as a motoring journalist, but occasionally there are compensations, like today, the beautiful grounds of Clevedon, and a chance to drive the new Suzuki Grand Vitara. Now, it's tempting to deride Suzuki as manufacturers of nothing more than essential fashion accessories, but there's a lot more to the cars than that. You tend to think of Suzuki as a relative newcomer to the 4x4 market, but in fact they've been making vehicles like this for over 30 years now. I remember the original being launched, the SJ and LJ, very basic, tiny little engined vehicles that people like Land Rover laughed at and said you couldn't possibly market a lightweight Jeep like that. And it wasn't long before Suzuki reinvented themselves as the ultimate fashion accessory, and little white Jeeps with elephants on their rear wheel covers soon seen all over town. Not much mystery about the new Grand Vitara though. Looks very much the mixture as before, but in fact it's a brand new body, a new chassis, new suspensions and a new engine, and the package altogether works extremely well. They introduced the Vitara with a 2-litre V6. This, the Grand Vitara, gets a new Suzuki engine, a 2.5-litre V6, twin overhead camshafts, 24 valves, almost 150 brake horsepower. That's enough to propel this little device at impressive velocities. Suzuki say the interior has undergone an extensive redesign, although the new dash panel looks fairly ordinary to me. There's extensive use of fairly cheap looking plastic. CD player comes as standard, although there's nowhere obvious to store your CDs unless you just leave them in the door pockets to rattle away. A few years ago, the insurance industry decided that GTIs weren't worth the risk and the insurance premiums went sky high. As a result, lots of people switched to these little 4x4s. Well, with this 142 brake horsepower engine, it's more like a four-wheel drive GTI than anything else I've driven lately. Like all 4x4 manufacturers, Suzuki are fiercely proud of their prowess cross-country, so like every new 4x4 launch, they've laid on a cross-country circuit. Now, the real secret of good off-road performance is tyres, and considering that the Suzuki off-road demonstrators are shod with pretty standard Bridgestones, that was an impressive performance.
What you have is a generation of customers, both male and female, that have got very used to, they admire, they enjoy the high driving position, the non-intimidating driving position. And one other key factor that we started to promote in the early 80s was total mobility. With the demise, unfortunate demise of public transport generally in the UK, people, particularly in rural areas, have a comfort factor that they have total mobility 12 months of the year. And that is a big bonus point, and it's something that we've majored on. You don't need to have a rugged 4x4, but you need the comfort that if you do need it, it will go anywhere.
New body shell, not that different. New chassis and suspension, not that much softer. Very nice little 2.5-litre V6. All you can really say is that Europe's best-selling 4x4 just got better.
After the break, come behind the scenes of BMW's Design Studio with Chris Bangle, exclusively on Motor Week. The BMW 3 Series, the ultimate driving machine that's ticked by thousands of junior executives every year when those company car choice forms are sent round. The current 3 Series has been more and more successful as time has gone on. In fact, last year, just under 42,000 new 3 Series found owners in the UK, and that's more than ever before. One would think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you're BMW striving for perfection, you go one step further. This is the new BMW 3 Series, which will hit the streets this October, giving us directly a new car distilled from the sponsors of its current owners. The number one complaint has been poor legroom. The response? 1.5 inches added to the overall length and better interior configuration. You complained about the boot space, and that has increased too, with better access and a touch-sensitive boot release. You complained about the relatively puny 1.8 engine. BMW now offer a 16-valve 1.9-litre replacement. Still badged a 318i. It's not exactly a wolf in sheep's clothing, but we're promised a big increase in actual pulling power. To find out more about the thinking behind these and other significant improvements to the already excellent 3 Series, we asked Chief Designer Chris Bangle to show Motor Week his secret design studios exclusively for us.
The people, the process, the place, all comes together to make sure that we have the best product. You need really top professionals in a really top environment so that they see the cars, they perceive the cars, and they work the art into the cars like it should be, because this is art. This is the biggest sculpture that people every day come in contact with. And it's not machine-made BMWs. It's only machine reproduced. It's made from hand by craftsmen and designers like this. Come on with me for a second. We're going to go into the CAS studio, and this is new from us, our brand new computer-aided styling studio, in which we've used the most advanced technologies and we have the world's largest projection system, and the most advanced computers to bring out the best of our, well, what we think are the best trained modelers in the world. It's not that we have to use different types of philosophy to bring out this, we just need different tools. And these tools are the computers that are around us here with the same sort of attention to quality and surface detail from the modelers that we have even on the clay models. It's the same people, different type of tools. And that gives us an environment and a methodology to see and perceive that quality upstream, far upstream in the process, in ways we never had before. Even if, can I have my glasses, please? Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, even if it means we got to use some kind of advanced visionary techniques to really see it. Three-dimensional, virtual, that's one way to perceive a car, but maybe a BMW at best is perceived where the customer sees it, and that's in an outside environment. Well, now we are outside. This is real 3D, and you don't need glasses like this to see it. But taking a car outside and looking at the models during the development, that's something we've done with the E46 like we never did before. Hell, we took this sucker to France in the middle of the winter just so we wouldn't freeze the models and could still see them outside. And that kind of dedication to understanding the surfaces, understanding is everything working from the visual distances that in a real world a customer sees it at. When we talk about design quality from BMW, that's what we mean, that kind of dedication. Many people say BMW cars all look the same, they're all boring, etc. Perhaps a little understanding of our family is really in order here. And there's two approaches to it. One is to say, we'll make everything different. One time we'll make apples, another time we'll make pears. And that's a market-driven philosophy. For every different kind of market, every different type of need, we'll make a different kind of product. They don't have to relate to each other. Another way is to say, well, actually, we have a single philosophy. It's very deep. It drives us to create every product with the same value system, the same goals. And that's more what BMW is all about. This is a how you can do it. This is a why you can do it philosophy. If I had to name two companies, I'd say this is something that when it goes in this direction, it's what BMW is doing. And when something goes in this direction, well, maybe that's what does. I mean, their cars don't really have a lot of relationship to one another, but that's not as important to them as the single driving philosophy is to us. The other aspect of what our cars are like is how well do they relate to the contents of their technical capabilities. And on that scale, if one were to say this is technical innovation, and on the other side one was to say this is aesthetic innovation, we all know that there's cars out there that somehow, well, they're real stylish, but there's not a whole lot of beef in them. And there's other cars that have a lot of technical content, but you don't see it and you don't understand it. There's even some cars out there that have neither, and they're just boring. But BMWs have always striven to maintain a certain harmony, a certain balance between what is their technical content, their engineering heart, and what is the aesthetic innovation that communicates that. And when these two things run in harmony, balance, that's maybe what BMW is when it's at its best. And I would submit that when we take a product like the 5, for instance, and go along this path, we're not evolving it. This is a progression. And that's the basic difference between perhaps a critical viewpoint of evolution as a dead-end approach and progression as the best approach to remain consistent and honest to the philosophy. But how does this come over on the customer? Well, this is the toughest part of all, because all of this has a lot of work behind it, and all of it comes out in the final product. And that's what I want to show you on. You can't just do this on a piece of paper on a board. You got to look at the car. So if we go to the car, I think you'll see what I mean. When I talk about harmony, we have consistency. We attempt to bring the family of our cars together with certain styling elements that give a person the knowledge he's dealing with a consistent, deep-rooted philosophical company. And at the same time, we're putting an enormous amount of energy into details that bring across that particular personality of what this car is. On the hand from the E46, the new 3 Series, we think that all the work that's gone into this really beautiful interior and this exterior detailing is what the customer will appreciate as that progression of what he's known to love as a 3 Series into this new world.
The new BMW 3 Series goes on sale in the UK in October. We'll have further reports on this, one of the year's most significant new cars, in future editions of Motor Week. SEAT UK have announced they will take no further orders for the stunning F2 road car launched at last October's London Motor Show. The £40,000 hotshot, which produced 200 brake horsepower from its turbocharged 2-litre engine, was based on the F2 rally car, which won its class in last year's World Rally Championship. However, all existing orders will be honoured, each car hand-built to customer specifications. The reason for SEAT's decision was that the motorsport division planned to launch a contender in the same WRC class as Colin McRae's Subaru Impreza. It was felt that the F2 would no longer be current with the latest developments in the rally team. Mercedes-Benz are seeking to broaden the appeal of their V-Class MPV by offering a 2.8 V6 engine version. This super smooth engine has drawn a lot of praise, and with 174 brake horsepower will offer improved performance all round for the V-Class over the 2.3-litre version. Top speed raised to 118 mph, overtaking ability improving too. The price for the new V280 is £28,950. Standard levels of equipment include air conditioning, automatic transmission with cruise control, leather seating and metallic paint. To celebrate 3 years in the UK, Daewoo are adding to the appeal of their range with a choice of 3 special offers. If you place an order before the 30th of June, you can have either a year's free insurance subject to status, a 10-disc Sony CD auto changer, or reduced rate finance. Small print written quotations available on request. When launched here in 1995, Daewoo offered a rather fresh approach to selling cars, breaking away from the traditional dealer networks. They also chose 200 drivers to provide feedback to the company on the cars and service they received. This year, the company won the category of after sales and service at the What Car of the Year Awards. Well, next week, the car that General Motors needs to succeed, the Opel and Vauxhall Astra. Next week on Motor Week.